Welcome back to another episode at the Podgy and Pickle Podcast. Do 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 do. The Podgy, the Pickle, the Podgy, the Pickle, the Podgy and the Pickle Podcast. Welcome back. Been struggling with my own thoughts, as usual, my own grandeur, delusions of being famous. Anyway, I really wanted to reach out to the crowd, to the group, to the community that I might not have, but mainly I wanted to reach out to my good friend Amanda, my sister Tennille, and my good friend Matt. Um, Amanda has always been an inspiration for me to continue my creative writing. Always been an inspiration for me to, get it finished, get it done, because I am creative and it's hard to get things finished. Um, my sister has always been entertained by the stories that I tell. She's always had that giggle. She's always been entertained by her brother, biased much, but it's often those people that I am telling those stories to, and most of all, it's my good friend Matt, who, I'm telling the most graphic, detailed stories to, who can, look back at not only the misfortunes, but the humor in the situation, which I quite enjoy. And reflecting back on that, it's really turned into a creative writing adventure, I guess I could explain, where I've gone and written, short, punchy stories about my past experiences and everything that I've done. And look, and again, I start to stutter and umble my words there because it's about what I'm trying to pronounce in the future, and that is, these guys have inspired me to write so much that I want to share it on stage. I want to get up and I want to inspire other people to laugh from my experiences. I am a storyteller. I'm not a stand-up comedic. I'm not a comedian to say, but people are laughing with me, and but my misfortunes are not. It can be a very relieving experience for me. Um, and what else do you do but you practice? You have this dream about getting up on stage, but what if you do? There's no one there in the crowd. So this is a real reach out to those people, particularly, Mander, Tennille, and Matt, and say, do you think this is good enough for me to pursue on stage? As you guys might know, the first title is So Okay, I Work with People, which is, extravagant stories about how I have worked with people over the years. Some of those experiences have been shocking, have been funny, have been, those that you also have experienced. But here I am on stage sharing mine now with you so you can laugh with me about it. Some of those stories, the simple ones, like working in high schools with teenage kids, teenage boys particularly, walk into the room. One kid's got his hand down his pants and he's playing with his phone in the other, and then he takes the hand out from his pants to shake your hand with that as like, g'day guy, how you doing? He's like, no, take a step back, take a picture of what you just done. So those things that we can have a little giggle at. It's the same thing, like, working in a refuge with kids, and how this young girl kept on getting young boys into a secure, alarmed facility. I'm like Houdini kid. How did she keep on doing it? I want to go into full details of these stories and not rush them like I'm a stand-up comedic with punchlines. I want to go into detail about how I did work in these situations, how I did work with people. From the old lady driving down, I was driving, but driving on the freeway with a patient who grabbed the steering wheel. And that's where you learn that lesson, that they've got to go in the back seat. They do not go in the passenger side for reasons that they've got dementia and they might freak out on the freeway and try and kill you. And, there the story ends. I wouldn't be here now saying this. So, it's things like that that I reflect back on. I have a chuckle at them. I think, you guys might too. The second series of stories is about how I live with other people. Throughout my life, I've been fortunate enough where I've been in a position to live with other people, from my teens all the way through to now. I still will live with other people. And some of those stories are not only ridiculous, they're funny and they're humorous. It goes from Clint being a schizophrenic and seeing people that weren't there to a person that actually was. And even he didn't believe himself until I saw her and agreed and went, you know what? Yeah, I see her too, man. What the heck? Another great story from Grand Island Beach. And I, fast forward to living with other people, and some of the stories are just ridiculous. Like your spoons go missing. Why do your spoons go missing? Particularly teaspoons in the sharehold facility, because they're using those for certain things. Um, and I ought to go into depth in even that story and why and how I learned that. Growing up as a teen, living with my father who was dramatic in his own, inviting his friends to come and live with us. And then, all the dramas that come with that, from, break-ins to, things you find out they do in jail that you don't ever want to know. Uh, so, like I said, I don't want to rush these stories because I'm not a stand-up comedic. I'm a storyteller. And that's where I really wanted to get into depth about these stories, and go on. Not only did um, I work with people, not only did I live with people, I also had people try and kill me. So, okay, I survived people trying to kill me. And this is a series of stories where, people have literally tried to take my life. From one time my father headbutting me like I was a grown man, but I was a 4-year-old child. Traumatic, I know, but might be the reason why I am the way I am, to go on. It's different stories like that where people tried to take my life. Later on in my life, teenage boy, Brian pulled up in a car. He's, my best friend's mother's boyfriend at the time, takes me out in the bush, threatens to kill me because he found out that me and her had previously been intimate. This is way before they were together and not since they had been together. Respectfully, but he got it in his head that he wanted to chop my balls off. So, I wanted to go into depth with that story and tell you guys, what happened, what actually happened, and hopefully you can laugh and giggle. And, one of the final stories is how I survived paranormal activity. Not only was there some domestic violence that, yes, as you heard, was dramatic, but these paranormal activities that continue to happen throughout my life. So one of the other stories is, okay, so I survived paranormal activity, something along those lines anyway. And it goes on about, the different experiences that I had. And from 2 gas explosions that happened where I almost died, one of those both instances, we could hear a lady in the crowd crying for a child, but it was the one instance where we looked around and there was nobody mouthing the words and we couldn't find who it was. And that time we knew that this is freaky shit, man. From that instance, being home alone for the very first time as a kid and, these traumatic events folded, seeing the mist go through in the hallway from your mother's head being in the window once you left the house, getting your neighbor as a witness to then go up to the house, and like hand by hand, one step after the other, and then that face dissipate. This is the kind of freaky stuff that I survived. And of course, I want to turn this into a stage production. I want to be up on stage telling these stories as cool, calm, and collected as I can in this voice now, because it seems to be the most appropriate, clear spoken voice. With my Australian voice, that's not so clear, a bit boganish. Sorry, that was a bit put on. My natural voice is it's a lot deeper. My natural voice, the home voice. But speaking to you guys, I like to project, be animated, and be on stage. Say, hi, my name's Ryan Dylan Brasington, Millennium Power, Abdu Asshole, already be. Whatever you like to be, I am and I want to be. So laugh, giggle, whatever it might be. Like, I imagine this being an experience where you guys can come, pay it for a ticket, have a drink, have a laugh, leave and go, that was fun. I want to come back next time and hear a different story or the same story, um, whatever it might be. And hopefully I can deliver that to you guys consistently, funny, on a monthly, weekly basis. I don't know, whatever it might be. I do have like 100 stories from the 5 different books. And as I said previously, they are kind of punchy, funny, and, if I'll stick it up and be myself, I don't know what that'd look like. That's kind of scary, so I guess it's easier to act and pretend to be someone else like I do. The way, I speak my normal voice and I was, I don't know. Ooh, yeah. So, you need to get up and act and be clearly spoken and pronounce your words with pronunciation. Especially being dramatic in these stories and wanting everyone to kind of giggle and laugh along with you. And keep it entertaining. Anyway, I won't bore you guys anymore. I just want to really reach out, like I said. This whole channel of the Podgy and Pickle Podcast is really based on these stories, and that's where I want to go. I don't like being recorded, watch myself on camera, but I really feel the want and the need to share these stories, be on stage, not necessarily for fame or fortune, for a legacy, yes. Relevance, yes. My own children's alive financially and beneficially in whatever way. I guess share before you do. Target. I would love to see some people in cinema getting some entertainment or, the venue, whatever it might be. I don't know. Well, hopefully that's what it becomes. That's what I imagine. And yeah, you guys can see that too. So please keep posted. I am going to make literally like an audition, for myself, a bit of a, draft on the stage scenario. What do they call that? A pre-production audition. That word, yeah, that one. I thought of it before rehearsal. Thank you. Cheers. So hopefully, I'm gonna just do a whole rehearsal on this thing. I'm gonna pretend to come out on stage, be myself. I'm gonna do it in full from start to finish and send it to you guys. And hopefully you laugh, you giggle, and give me a score. I don't know, some feedback. Should I pursue it, or am I just that creative goose? Am I just that fucking idiot that no one wants to really listen to? And it is, that is the harshest feedback you could probably give someone that wants to be a storyteller, is to shut the fuck up and, they don't want to hear your shit, or, you're just a dribbler, so even as a friend, you don't want to get that feedback, which I've had before, off the cuff kind of, but, when you want to share it before the end of it, I guess it's important. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? You want to be someone, nothing, or, and if you are that someone, who are you someone to, and so it's friends I mentioned before. My daughters, their mother, the best friend, those friends, cheers. Like, subscribe, do whatever you kids do these days.